Woolly mammoths have been extinct for about 4,000 years. Or have they? Hey there, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be answering the question, what if the woolly mammoth wasn't extinct? But before we do that, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more. Let's go! The woolly mammoth was an iconic species of mammoth that lived during the Pleistocene until its extinction at the end of the last ice age around 10,000 years ago. Mammoths, in general, were large, robust elephants with long, straight tusks and large ears. The woolly mammoth was named for the long, thick, shaggy hair that covered its body, which grew to be about 3 feet or 90 centimeters in length. This, along with its layer of subcutaneous fat, helped it survive in cold climates, and its molars had raised ridges to help with chewing through fibrous plants. But what if this mammal wasn't actually extinct? What if it survived in some small population somewhere deep in the woods? Would it still look the same as it did back in the Ice Age? Would it be just as big? And could humans still ride them? In this video, we'll explore the possibility of modern-day woolly mammoths and answer these questions. So let's get into it. Hi, I'm here. I love learning about all the amazing animals in our world and sharing that knowledge with you guys. It's hard to say exactly where mammoths originated because fossils can't always tell us that. However, we do know that they lived across many different parts of the northern hemisphere from North America through Siberia and even into Europe. Although mammoths are no longer with us, their fossils have been found preserved in things such as tar pits and permafrost. And this is how we've learned so much about them. One of the most well-known groups of woolly mammoth fossils is from the Siberian permafrost. These specimens are especially helpful to paleontologists because the icy climate has preserved not only the bones, but also things such as skin, hair, and even internal organs. Thanks to these resources, we know that woolly mammoths were massive creatures who weighed up to 12 tons and stood around 11 feet tall at the shoulder. They had narrow heads, long legs, and relatively small ears. Their fur was long, dark brown, and very thick. Just imagine trying to keep your head above water in a freezing river with a thick coat like that. We think that they used mud wallows to help keep their bodies free of biting insects and other pests. In terms of temperament, we don't have a lot of information to go off of, so we can only guess about what they were like. But based on their distant relatives, the African bush elephant, we can assume that they would be just as intelligent. Elephants are known for their memory, problem-solving skills, communication, and social intelligence. They also have really complex emotions and feel grief when they lose family members. Seeing as mammoths were related to elephants, it's likely that they had similar personalities. Now that we know a little bit about woolly mammoths, let's take a look at what it would be like if some of them managed to survive until today. Of course, we know that this didn't happen, but let's pretend that it did. For this scenario, we're going to be using information from a 2015 study published by 2 geneticists from the University of California. The authors wrote a paper proposing that bringing back the woolly mammoth was both possible and beneficial. Their reasoning was that since woolly mammoths went extinct less than 10,000 years ago, and the genome is fragmented but present in several places throughout the Siberian permafrost, scientists could possibly extract this DNA and bring the mammoth back to life. In their paper, the authors suggest using elephant stem cells and replacing some of their DNA with that of the mammoth. Technically speaking, this wouldn't create a purebred woolly mammoth, but rather an elephant-mammoth hybrid. Still, it would be pretty cool to see these roam free once again, even if they weren't 100% mammoths. But would mammoths even be able to survive in our modern world? If a small population of woolly mammoths somehow made it to the present day, it's likely that they would live in remote regions of northern Canada, Alaska, or Siberia. These areas are still relatively cold and have lots of vegetation that mammoths could feed on. Although mammoths were generally herbivores, preferring plants such as grasses and shrubs, they were capable of being omnivores when needed. Some researchers believe that they may have even hunted smaller animals such as reindeer, Also, seeing as polar bears live in similar habitats, it's easy to imagine that woolly mammoths could survive there too. It's possible that modern woolly mammoths would look very different from their ancient counterparts. Remember that evolution doesn't move quickly, but given enough time, a few adaptations could change significantly. Take the Irish elk, for example. Over the course of thousands of years, its antlers grew larger and larger until they were around 12 feet wide. But this also made them top-heavy and eventually led to their extinction. If woolly mammoths continued to evolve in a way that made them bigger, they would risk becoming extinct once again. On the flip side, if woolly mammoths evolved to become smaller, they might find themselves targeted by predators such as wolves. Natural selection works to preserve what is advantageous to the species. And whatever traits woolly mammoths would need to survive today would depend on the environments that they live in and the threats that they face. So any differences would likely be due to preserving certain traits that help them survive. Finally, could humans still ride woolly mammoths if they weren't extinct? During the Ice Age, humans did attempt to hunt mammoths, but they were very difficult to kill. There are records of humans spearing mammoths only to watch them run away and live another day. If they weren't extinct, it's likely that we would try to hunt them again. And even if we didn't, they would need to be wary of us. If woolly mammoths were still alive, humans would probably try to domesticate them, like we did with horses. In fact, scientists believe that domestication may have played a role in the extinction of woolly mammoths. As humans began to farm and settle down, they would have killed off much of the vegetation that mammoths depended on for food. When faced with starvation, mammoths probably became more bold and began raiding human settlements for food. This would have caused conflict between humans and mammoths, and it's likely that this is what led to their eventual demise. So what do you think? Do you think woolly mammoths would still be the same size if they weren't extinct? How do you think they would behave, and would humans still ride them? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If woolly mammoths were still around today, they would definitely be an endangered species. Humans have greatly altered the planet in the past 10,000 years and introduced many threats that would endanger woolly mammoths. Even if they were still well adapted to cold climates, they would be threatened by habitat loss due to climate change, poaching, and human encroachment. In addition to these problems, woolly mammoths would also have to contend with diseases that they have never encountered before. One thing you have to remember about bringing an extinct animal back to life is that it wouldn't be immune to any of the diseases that are currently circulating. Take, for example, the passenger pigeon. This bird went extinct in the early 1900s after overhunting and habitat destruction. Although it went extinct very recently, scientists estimate that it will take millions of years for its genes to repopulate and diversify once again. And this is because after the passenger pigeon went extinct, many diseases that it would have been exposed to continued to circulate in other bird populations. This meant that if it were to come back to life today, it would likely be wiped out by disease once again. Woolly mammoths would face the same danger. They would be susceptible to pathogens that have developed in the past 10,000 years that they would have no natural immunity to. And unless scientists could find a way to prevent this, bringing woolly mammoths back to life would be pointless because they would simply die out once again. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to learn more about extinct animals brought back to life, check out this playlist right here. Thanks for watching. See ya.